So Lara, we just want to continue on our recent conversation, right? And kind of a bit free topic. But one of the things we talked about last week is just looking at the whole MAGA movement and the Make America Great Again. And there's this whole kind of divergence, right? That,
Yep.
you have American first, and then you have a group of them becoming American only, right? And especially when it relates to foreign policy, it relates to war, then look at what's happening in Venezuela and things like that. Then we kind of bring that back to Malaysia. Of course, we have our own version of first, right? I mean, a lot of states wanting to have more power. I mean, look at Johor, look at Penang, but none more so than the Borneo states, right? Sabah and Sarawak always have been pushing first, which they've been doing. But then the first can easily become like the American version of only, right? So what do you think of that? Maybe we start with the whole structure of MAGA, right? Make America Great Again. So it's like again means there's something which they were once upon a time good. So Trump is like, we want to go back to today. We want to go back to energy independence. We want to go back to being wealthy. We want to now he's focusing on helping people to have house ownership, because the millennial and the Gen Z basically cannot afford housing, etc., etc. So taking that back here, like if we say, a Sarawak first, Sabah first, but do we have anything great to look back to? That would be my first starting question.
Yeah, I mean, I do think definitely there was something that was great. As in, you do look at one point Malaysia was one of the largest exporter of tin. Like so mining industry, I mean, but the fact is, I guess there's so much sentiments about, hey, we were being colonized by the British. And so therefore people kind of like ignore the fact that actually the Brits were the one who actually brought in all these technologies and actually help us to somewhat get started. I mean, it's just like if you want to do a business, you don't have a startup capital. You have to find funders, right? You have to find someone who's willing to invest in you and believe in your vision, and then therefore you could then maybe have a shot at life. So I feel like it's a lot of lack of gratitude that was being shown that actually causes to have like a skewed perspective of actually what happened. I mean, we do have like a lot of great things. I mean, you have like so many resources. I mean, and also like Malaysia has always been known as a very politically stable country. And you also have like the fact that we are not bothered by any natural disasters. So I mean, these are all good points that have that we still do enjoy. So it's just that I guess when people are so skewed by, hey, I mean, like certain countries, they have more BLM rights and things like that being advocate, and we feel like, hey, it's also close to us because maybe we also have like certain skin color that being represented. So I feel like it's a lot of those brainwashing, because maybe because we're watching too much Hollywood stuff that we sort of really knowingly, unknowingly being brainwashed by our quote-unquote idols.
Very interesting. Remember a couple of episodes ago, we kind of look at Professor Tajuddin, and I mean, it was a very sarcastic article, but one of the theme, of course, was really talking about, the Malay already have so much power and things like that. And of course, then when you try to use like critical race theory, and then you try to use anti-colonial mindset. Basically, it's a different version of siege mentality. It's kind of ridiculous, right? I mean, you have all the political position, you have all the civil service, you have the military, you have the police, but the thing is, I mean, back to your initial point, do we kind of acknowledge that, the like British did provide something good for us? I mean, we haven't even mentioned the education system.
Yeah.
And that for the longest time, like even Malaysian economy was way above Taiwan, Singapore, South Korea. Of course, these days we are lagging behind because of various things. So if we say like even pre-World War II and after World War II, Malaysian economy was pretty solid.
Yeah, definitely. And another point that I was just pondering on, like what was great about Sabah and Sarawak is that we have a level of racial harmony that, I mean, obviously over the years, especially more so in West Malaysia, it has been hijacked, and suddenly you have the 3R cards that are often being played. So like the race, religion, I guess like all these sort of things, it was kind of like, it was once upon a time a foreign concept to Sabahan and Sarawakians. So I felt like that was something that was great. But I mean, obviously, you still have a great unity among the first people and also different races in Sabah Sarawak, even up till now. I think that's because there was a level of protectionism. So I felt like in that sense, Sabah and Sarawak first, I think it sort of like benefited because we are not so bogged down by some of these ideologies. So I felt like there was that point that was great, but if we're not careful, we could also fall into the other pendulum where we just think like, hey, I mean, I deserve to have even more rights.
Yeah, you use a very accurate word, protectionism, which is, I mean, both of us are from Sarawak. I mean, we will be the first to acknowledge that Sarawak practiced the most severe protectionism, border control, food import exports, professional control and things like that. So did you see that being a problem long term?
No, I don't think so. I mean, if you look at America, I mean, Trump actually, I think some of those policies, I mean, I don't think everyone agrees with all his policies, but
The
some of his,
libertarian doesn't,
yeah,
obviously.
some of his strongest policies were actually people are very happy about immigration. I mean, people are happy about him like just trying to make our lives like easier. So I felt like that part actually he's like gaining popularity and he's still very, very much strong on that point. I mean, obviously you have certain points where people maybe get a little bit agitated by, oh, hey, let's get the Fed, bring down the interest a bit. I guess people are a bit apprehensive because of the inflation thing, but that aside, I feel like protectionism, aka like immigration control and things like that, I think that's still something that actually I think you're gaining worldwide popularity.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about inflation due to tariff has been debunked, and in fact, now they are kind of like experiencing, great low level inflation, and that's why he's so fed up with the Federal Reserve chairman who is still refusing to bring the interest down. But one of the things, of course, when we talk about now you remember Vivek was the one who say, why we need more foreigner to come in because Americans are lazy and things like that, which it is really very, very offensive. And I was just recently reading an article, very interesting article about during World War II and Germans, Germans military Nazi, they descended from the Prussian heritage, Austrian heritage, very, very disciplined, very, very analytical. And they analyzed the American and they concluded that Americans are soft and that they would not be able to participate in a war. So when American was involved, they were initially not very concerned because they were like, these people cannot fight. Which is, I mean, you think about it, it's like so ridiculous, right? They're probably the fiercest warrior on earth. But anyway, the whole thing is when they decided to join, they say American can build, but they cannot fight. And there was this story about how they got one industrialist who never built a single boat in his entire life. And he was able to fabricate and do all the different parts. Eventually, he was able to build one battleship every day. And I mean, it may not have the German engineering or Italian finesse, but it works, So one of the things that we come back to protectionism because that kind of relates to great again, right? So because we see a lot of protectionism in Sabah and Sarawak, and a lot of people, especially the globalists, are accusing Trump of protectionism. But you have to provide some kind of prosperity for your people first. I think that's the whole point which a lot of people are missing.
Yeah, I mean, even in like many episodes ago, we kept talking about, hey, is our prime minister even a prime minister for Malaysia? Because at one point he was like so fixated with what's happening in Middle East. It's like anywhere but Malaysia. So I felt like, I mean, people do appreciate a certain level of security, because when the leaders are placing the national interest first before all the other nations, not saying that you can't help other nations, but it's just that, hey, I mean, we are raising a little white flag here and we do need a little bit of help here. So I feel like that part has to be attended first, because otherwise it's like you can be strong in the foreign policy but weak domestically, you will still lose the election. So I feel like there is a lot of that part where it has to be balanced. So just because you focus more on domestic policies doesn't mean that you are more I guess like protectionism isn't really defined that way.
Yeah, I guess there's a lot of unhappiness with America because they literally funded the whole world. And when USAID and now Trump has pulled out from Paris Accord, from WHO, I mean, actually it's all dollars and cents. It's like, why should we be paying for this kind of globalist agenda that doesn't help America?
Yeah. I mean, do you even... I think I read somewhere that starting this year, the EV cars will be imposed road tax.
Yeah, and then I think the subsidy is finally being removed.
Exactly. I mean, like when you have that and it's like everyone is on the same level playing field, and is it still gonna be as competitive as it is, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Like I think last year they say Ford or GM make a huge loss because they were trying to pivot to EV and literally billions spent. And now with EV slowing down, they go back to conventional, but you still need time to absorb the losses. And so when we talk about first versus only, and I think maybe for the benefit of our viewers and listeners, I think maybe people look at MAGA and they don't really understand where the friction really comes because there's a group of people saying that America should not be involved in Middle East, should not be involved with Venezuela, for example. And a lot of the talking point is that Trump's administration is being controlled by Zionists. It's like this is like the oldest argument. So the whole argument, and you see some of the more well-known people like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owen, really, I mean, for lack of better description, they have become quite anti-Semitic. But literally what they were accusing Trump's administration was that he is not for America. So their interpretation is it has to be American only. But Trump is like, if interfering overseas help American interests, then that is my MAGA policy. So I mean, we'll see how it works out. But of course, coming back again to domestic, I mean, we are not world changer, this kind of thing. But do you see, I mean, we talked a little bit the last episode. My personal feeling is we have some people from the Borneo side, they are not only Borneo first, they want to be Borneo only. And we always talk about the fact that independence is a possibility. But I'll also kind of point to what Tunku Abdul Rahman said to Lord Reed, belum layak. Like I mean, you say can Sarawak be independent? I'll say belum layak. Can we even take care of our own things? We can't. But do you see this kind of movement, like kind of taking momentum, among the people because I think you have friends and family who are more into this kind of action, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess there is some traction, but I felt like it's always the nearer you are to election cycle, then this sort of traction will suddenly have a bit of surge.
So is it like a seasonal kind of thing? Like Chinese New Year, you need to burn some firecrackers.
Yeah, a little bit. I felt like people do need some talking point. I guess because when people think about...
But are they serious? I mean, are they very serious? I mean, based on your estimation.
I think they somewhat do believe in certain vision.
I mean, if referendum is allowed, would they really go for... I mean, that's what happened with Scotland, right? When they were given the referendum, many of them had cold feet. I mean, they were so sure Scotland will vote to leave United Kingdom, and then it was defeated quite badly.
Yeah, I guess it's like, unless you present such a case as strong as Brexit, I mean, British exiting from European Union.
Then what that one is still more acceptable because you're being imposed, like you're being superimposed, and not your sovereignty is being taken away.
Yeah, I guess like, unless it's something as strong as that sort of event that is happening with Sabah Sarawak, I don't think. I feel like
But what will push? I mean, you look at the ratio. I mean, the 3R issue. You look at economic issue with Azalina come out and say MSCC3 doesn't cover petroleum rights.
I guess that sort of thing might
push
trigger to come to a point of realization that, hey, actually
we're better off by ourselves.
Yeah, but then again, I think people are also a bit. I guess a lot of people actually do have like a lot of fear of the future. I mean, as in like, so long there is a certain party that can promise some sort of a hope that will cause them to be like, okay, I mean, I'm a bit more grounded in this sort of vision and things like that, then maybe yes. But I guess there is also a lot of narrative that says that we could be like Dubai, we could be like Singapore. Look, they are doing so well economically. Then again, I guess it also depends. If we do have the rights to like deep sea drilling and things like that, maybe. I mean, if we strike gold, maybe. I feel like maybe some
it's
of
a
these
huge
things,
maybe, and
yeah.
because we're just talking about work this afternoon, and wanting to do some kind of investment structure, and then you have to give projection, right? The next 5 years revenue and things like that. So even those kind of projection can go wildly off, But something like we could be Singapore, we could be UAE is even way off, It's like, I'll put it in the category of wishful thinking. But of course, you can. I mean, politics is about selling dreams and partially wishful thinking. So you can do that as a talking point.
But I'm just wondering, I mean, practically speaking, even if we do a referendum, would Malaysia actually honor it? Like assuming you get majority voting, okay, we want to leave Malaysia. I mean, is it still going to be upheld? I feel like there's a lot of legality that we have not even begin to explore. Like, how do we leave? I mean, because Singapore and Malaysia did have a certain level of agreement.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of have read some of the legal argument put by the pro-independence, but it just doesn't sound very compelling to me. Of course, they have case study, they look at Kosovo and things like that. So, but going back to your initial point, Malaysia for the most part has been peaceful, and even 2018 when we have the change of federal government, it was peaceful. So many attempts to kind of revive another May 13 has not come to pass. So I just feel like generally our people are not, we're not like the Balkan and things like that. And we're not as desperate as Singapore in 64. And by the way, now with all the records and archive from Lee Kuan Yew, the special hidden data all coming out now, it was basically a handshake. It's like nobody was kicked out. It's really a deal. So unless there's something like this, we're just talking about, like Azalina talk about, it doesn't cover mineral right. Then PDA, where does it stand? Would Sarawak government and federal government be willing to go to federal court to fight? We talk about the famous dams case in Australia where the Tasmanian state and federal government both agree to submit to the High Court. But our judiciary doesn't have that kind of reputation, right? And most people will kind of feel the judiciary are on the federal side.
Yeah, most definitely.
I mean, if I'm Abang Joe, I'll be like, hell no, you're not going there, right? And so it's going to be a political solution. So I mean, I guess as long as GPS is in control, which would you agree they are probably in a stronger position even now?
Yeah,
compared to
definitely.
I mean, where's all the opposition? They are like gone, right?
I guess because we're also at a point where a lot of us are actually very much into greeny agendas. And it just so happened to be the one thing that Sarawak government is being praised for. So I feel like we will still probably need a bit of time to come around.
Okay, since you talk about that, let's talk about a point which I wasn't intending to talk about, like the progressive agenda. Do you feel like Malaysia in general is being affected? When I say progressive, I'm talking about the Western progressive. So, talking about ESG, those kind of things. But it's happening already, right? To a different degree. But of course, there is Trump there, which is... by the way, the other very strange thing, which I think a lot of people don't even realize, is all these progressive ESG, I mean, loads of crap. China is not doing that. So you have the two biggest world economy not doing that.
Yeah, I mean, especially, I feel like there is a huge shift, especially in this WEF in Davos, especially with Trump's...
Yeah, he was there. They have no choice but to entertain him.
Yeah, but the thing is, I felt like there is a bit of a shift in terms of like people are no longer so... I mean, they would want to try to keep pushing for some green agendas and things like that. But I feel like there is also sufficient enough data to actually show that, hey, I mean, without coal, without fuel, I mean, all these things, how are you going to sustain? People are still traveling by private jet and things like that. So how are you going to be able to sustain if everything is EV? I mean, just based on solar power, based on windmill. I mean, I thought it was so funny that Trump was just saying that I don't like windmill.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing, of course, I mean, even Elon Musk is trying to, because he's in renewable energy industry, then he say, like China is leading the way and things like that. But I think what a lot of people don't even realize is that 70% of China's energy still come from fossil fuel. So we're talking about a lack of efficiency, but the thing about every time you want to raise this kind of issue, it's a bit like talking to people about COVID, right? About vaccine, right? And like recently, of course, in our personal lives, we're dealing with cancer and things like that. Then you get this kind of whole discussion, like the conventional medicine versus the metabolic medicine. But everything that is not mainstream, you see the powers to be will try to shut down. And of course, you talk about banking, Federal Reserve. I mean, we talked about Federal Reserve a little bit last week. But it's so ridiculous, right? That you have, and now of course, so today, you see that the crypto worldwide is like, and a lot of people really believe that there is a manipulation that is happening, because the current financial system, the fiat people doesn't want to lose power, of course. So all these things is kind of like grabbing hold of many people, maybe even controlling their thinking and things like that. So as we move into our last point today, which actually we just tentatively call it actionable point, right? So how do we, I mean, of course, one of the whole purpose of this podcast is to kind of, I mean, we're not even trying to tell you what to think, right? I mean, we're trying to give you, certain thought processes, and hopefully you can come out with your own conclusion. But what are some of the things, I mean, we talk about so many episodes already, right? How to break out from that media mind control, and we see the legacy media are dying. Like Weipo just kind of terminated 300 people, and you see the libtard are like melting. But they say a few days ago, Amazon just terminated more than 10,000 workers, and nobody was saying anything. But how come 300 legacy media people become like the...
I mean, because they are the most forefront about, with their mouths.
And they are like, oh, the great contribution to society is now gone. 300, come on, 300. Nobody's going to miss the... That's why somebody was like just commenting and say, Bezos, you're making a bad business decision. It's going to cost you financially. Then another person just very sarcastically say, well, if Bezos, being one of the richest men on earth, is making a bad financial decision, somebody will just come and hire these 300 terminated staff and form another media company and will make a lot more money. Not going to happen because nobody is reading WebPo and those kind of things. So anyway, come back to our point. But I guess when we talk about actionable, what can we do to help people to, I mean, we always use a matrix kind of illustration, right? Yeah, but besides talking, okay, maybe at another side point, do you feel like people kind of is a bit tired of podcasting and people telling you what to think?
Yeah, but I guess also it depends on your habit as well. I feel like habits could be trained. I mean, you have a lot of like great great podcasts that people would just tune into, because it's just so interesting. But
this is like in the past, people read blog to learn financial skill, social skill. So, I mean, if you find the right one, actually they can help you, right?
Yeah, but I guess it's like we have grown a bit lazier over the years with the rise of social media. I mean, because it sort of causes to like, you don't really have to use like a lot of brain power to brain certain things. Because I mean, these days you hear a lot of terms, oh, my brain cannot brain it. Like those sort of things. But actually your brain can brain some of these things. So I think it's just a matter of preference, whether or not you want to. So I feel like people should still have a go at listening to certain podcasts, especially when there are certain events that you do want to like hear different sides of the story. I mean, just like in like ICE. I mean, it is the ICE being too basically just being like a tyrant, or are they really like doing their job and things like that? So I guess people do need to like come to both sides of the story to actually, okay, then you begin to form an objective idea. So I feel like reading can also be one of it, or writing. I mean, if some people are very keen to write, I mean, we can always be the opinion piece writer, right?
So is that one of the actionable?
Yeah, I think so.
Microblogging, or
I mean, I was just thinking of our friend David Tiang. He was like writing as well. I think that's a good thing to actually try to cause people to begin to even have a little bit of shift, or maybe just be a bit more open-minded. I mean, the fact that so many young male voters for Trump in this current administration, I think it's because they do listen to a lot of podcasts like Joe Rogan, and even I mean some of the younger up and rising sort of podcasters, but they have like millions of influence. So I think it's just, I don't know, maybe the language barrier, or maybe or just a matter of preference, that's all.
I mean, recently in Malaysia, I see a rise in more podcasts. I mean, well, of course, I think more Malay language in terms of political, because I think naturally Malays are just more attuned to political development. I think that's a general true observation, right? And so I guess it's a market, if you're really good. I mean, those days, remember the last GE, the PN did very well with the more TikTok and those kind of things. Then they managed to stir the emotions.
Yep.
Then of course you do have kind of quality discussions, but I guess it's like the habit, right? I mean, they say Malaysians don't even read 20 pages of book per year. So I mean, now people just want to. I mean, I see my children how they look at the shorts. It's like so fast. I don't even know what they're looking at. So to ask them to sit down and listen to 50 minutes, it's a bit ask, right?
Yeah, it is. But then again, they could also sit through the whole lesson in school.
I don't know how much they are absorbing though.
But I thought it was kind of interesting because a lot of youngsters these days, if you sort of think that they are not listening, but they can kind of like remember what you have talked about and maybe regurgitate
definitely
some of these points. So I feel like it's just a matter of like getting the right language.
And the obviously the content has to match their interests, and but I guess maybe the young people around me, I mean, most of the time, even in my workplace, talk about government, it's all the like dinosaur, These are the old people like to talk about it. I mean, it's like coffee shop habit. But the younger people, I just find they don't have that interest. Maybe they have it. So So actionable, maybe you have to find ways to stir them. And especially in times of economic hardship. Like today, my parents, were just here and they said, oh, you can, they have an electrician that can help me to fix some of the things in the house. Then he said, oh, then my mother-in-law added, business was really bad. So it's like, even my father was saying the same for Cebu. It's like people are holding back spending if they can.
Wow.
So that's why I'm saying that even though, USD to RM and PMX kept saying our economy is doing great, but on the ground, people are still feeling the pinch. So maybe that can cause people to be more open to certain development.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, because affordability, I mean, it's a term that is no stranger to a lot of people. So I feel like that's the part that, I mean, you can say that maybe it's just a single issue sort of matter, but I think it's still a topic that is very dear to a lot of people's heart. And actually, how do they want to, how can they actually be prosperous?
Another interesting thing is every time there is a very negative article, especially on Trump and his administration in Malaysia, I mean, the usual suspect in Malaysia, Kini, always kind of very negative. Then I go to the comment and I'm honestly quite surprised that the reply is like half-half. Then of course people can be like, oh, I don't think Trump is so free to go and engage bots in Malaysia. But that's where we're coming from, right? Certain things from the MAGA in terms of small government, in terms of affordability, in terms of business friendly. Of course, I mean, I really feel like MAGA is for small government, but then people kind of say, oh, but what about Greenland? How about Venezuela and things like that? Wow, that's America has always been about expanding and things like that, but they do it in different ways. So I guess we are attracted to some of those ideas, recognizing that we are similar but different. I mean, we are similar in terms of multicultural. So that's why I remember one of the model for Malaysia is multicultural Malaysia.
Yep.
Instead of one that is being dominated by race and religion. So that is like the kind of Malaysia that was presented to us when we were growing up, right?
I mean, I would even argue that was once upon a time Malaysia's the one of the great thing about Malaysia.
So that's the kind of thing that I think not easily extinguished. So it's like if we can get people to understand where we come from. 57, 63, actually the whole foundation is multicultural. And we had a constitution. Yes, we keep the monarchy and things like that. Yes, we have official language, official religion, but it was never meant to dominate other people. So if we can even come back to that kind of thing. So those will be actionable, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
So any other actionable kind of things, maybe now Chinese New I mean, the other thing, of course, this year is kind of unique, right? Day 2 Chinese New Year is also beginning of Puasa.
Yeah.
So every time you have this kind of convergence, you start to think about why can't people just live in harmony, right? It's like, why is there a need to feel superior or inferior? But that comes from many, many layers, I guess. Education, the law, the politician. The politician have to bear a lot of responsibility, right?
Definitely.
The media, of course, obviously. So any other actionable thing that you maybe kind of like get into some serious discussion with people you have not met for a while? I mean, if the opportunity arises, I guess.
Yeah, I guess we kind of have to find like the right sort of topic that interests them, and you kind of like begin to engage again and just like, hey, how's life? And I mean, maybe even the theme of affordability. I mean, that can always be something that you sort of present, hey, maybe what if there is a better solution and things like that. So I feel like people might be a little bit open. I mean, obviously you might still have a lot of opposing views to it. Then again, I mean, no harm in trying.
Okay, so I think the next few weeks, since we will be off for a while, I think let's go and do some experiment, and maybe the next time we come back, we will have some actionable things to report back to. So I guess that's all the time we have for today.
Yeah.
So we're taking a couple of weeks off, then we'll be back again, hopefully with more discussion that you all might want to listen. So that's all for now. Bye bye.
Bye bye.